On the day the Beijing Circle's prince proposed to his best friend, she jumped from a high building. Susanna, I'm sorry. I need to go home first. The sky was filled with glaring red, and the usually calm and dignified prince was red-eyed, desperately hugging his best friend's body. I only smirked mockingly, took a step back, and teetered on the edge of the rooftop. Prince's uncle protected the woman in his arms and glared at me. What? You also want to use such despicable methods as jumping off a building to force me to marry you? She's already dead. What's the point of that marriage contract anymore? Robert, you're not good at all. I want to go home. I leaned back and fell rapidly. The moment I crashed onto the ground, I heard Robert's heart-wrenching scream. I didn't die. Rudolph's privately owned hospital was cleared for me alone. Within 24 hours after I fell from the building, top medical experts around the world held a seminar on my condition. But Robert, who was by my side, took care of me for a month. Mr. Robert really cares about you, the visiting doctor said with envy, his eyes falling on my stiff legs, flashing with a hint of regret. Yes, Robert spent billions to bring my life back from the gates of death. Unfortunately, money isn't everything. My legs are ruined. Wallace is also dead. Night after night in the hospital. When I was unconscious, I wasn't completely unaware. I keep dreaming Wallace falling from the building. She was wearing the white dress we had when we first arrived in this world, and she jumped from the high building. Beautiful like a bird embracing freedom, she said. There's no home for me here, even if there's only a 50% chance. I'll try. 5 years ago, I and Wallace were in a car accident, and we both ended up in this tragic love story. To return home as soon as possible, Wallace almost lost half her life, pulling Samuel, a gloomy teenager who was always on the edge of suicide, back into the light. And I, for 5 years, have been by Robert's side, helping him grow from a bastard exiled overseas into the head of the Rudolph family. Finally, the bitterness turned into sweetness. A month ago, Wallace became pregnant. Samuel knelt before her, his noble head bowed in deep devotion, and when he confessed his love, I saw Wallace's tearful eyes. At that moment, I thought, Wallace might not be able to go home with me, but I didn't expect Wallace would still go before me. The mission wasn't completed and he died. Even if there was a 50% chance to return to the original world, he might have to face a body that was broken after a car accident. She left with such decisiveness. He woke up. The sound of the door opening brought me back to my thoughts. I looked listlessly at Robert, and didn't respond. Robert placed the food container on the table, took a small bowl, and fed it to my mouth personally. You like the beef soup? The ginger has already been removed. A faint burnt smell spread out. I raised my eyebrows and noticed Robert's fingertips had red burns. This beef soup was made by him himself. How fresh. A month ago, he hated me to the point of wishing I would die. I looked at him with curiosity. Compared to a month ago, he has lost a lot of weight. His sunken eyes made his cheekbones more prominent, giving him a sharp and severe appearance. And when he looked at me, there was a strong sense of guilt. Glanced at the door. A familiar white dress flashed by. Vanessa met my eyes with a furtive gaze. A person who is overly kind without reason is surely here on behalf of his lover. For the first time after waking up, I smiled at Robert. He showed a happy expression, but his face gradually stiffened under my cold words. Why didn't you invite Vanessa in? Are you afraid I might pour dirty water on her again? Don't worry. My leg is broken. I won't have the chance to jump a second time. Susanna. Robert narrowed his eyes, as if he wanted to scold me as he used to. Seeing my leg, he pinched his brow and sighed deeply. Wallace's death saddens me. Vanessa didn't mean to provoke her. At that time, no one knew Wallace was pregnant, let alone that the child wasn't. Robert lowered his voice, showing an unusual hint of guilt. I looked at him coldly and let out a mocking laugh. So he knew all along. If it wasn't for his indulgence, Vanessa wouldn't have had the chance to cause trouble at Wallace's wedding ceremony. Vanessa said. The one who had relations with Wallace that night wasn't Samuel at all. Oh, all of this was just a bet between Vanessa and Samuel to see how far she would go. Wallace is dead, and that is an unchangeable fact. You, don't get too upset. Robert turned his head. His Adam's apple bobbed a few times. You rest well. Once you're better, we'll get married. After saying that, he seemed too afraid to look at me, and quickly left with Vanessa. Before leaving the hospital room, Vanessa gave me a provocative look, just like the day she returned to her country. She sent me and Wallace a challenge at the same time. Sister, have you ever heard a saying? A sudden love can never match a childhood friend. Believe me, all I have to do is flick my finger, and the two of them will come to me like dogs. I naturally believed it. With Wallace it was smooth sailing, and I managed to get Samuel to an affection level of 99. Robert was cold-hearted. I spent 5 years saving his life from an earthquake, and only got a single sentence from him. I can give you the status of a girlfriend, but don't expect anything more. Wallace tried to console me, saying that maybe Robert was actually warm-hearted, and that his affection level was already at 50, which was the best proof of his reserved nature. She hugged me and cooed. If Samuel's affection for me increases quickly, I'll wait for you until Robert completely falls in love with me. She wanted to go home with me. At that time, I saw the reluctance in her eyes, and I smiled and teased. After all, we don't have family in that world. If you really like Samuel, I wouldn't mind staying here with you for a lifetime. I looked at her blushing face, hiding the sorrow in my eyes. For Robert, I wasn't without feelings, but that tiny bit of affection hadn't even had a chance to take root before Robert himself crushed it. On the 3rd year after arriving, while touring the resort development project with Robert, an earthquake suddenly struck. When the collapsing beam came towards us, I pushed him to a safe place with all my strength. In the pitch-black underground, my breath grew weaker with each passing second. Robert used the phone he had barely found a signal with, and instead of calling for help, he called Vanessa, who was far away across the ocean. He didn't say a word. Silent confessions spread in the darkness. Those secret, unspeakable feelings surge and grow stronger in the face of life and death. Like a tsunami, it overwhelmed me and completely extinguished the restlessness in my heart. 50, 30, 20. Love value reaches 0. At that time, I told myself, the worst outcome would be not being able to go home. Wallace still has a choice. If she is well, I will be content. The next day, Robert didn't come again, but someone brought me a nutritional meal. As expected, it was again his own work. He didn't dare to see me, because he was guilty. Vanessa sent a message. You and Wallace are competing on who is more ridiculous. One is dead, one is paralyzed, and the man you care about is still running around me like a dog. Attached a photo. In the shot, Vanessa was wearing a wedding dress, placing her hand affectionately on Samuel's arm. The two of them face to face, smiling at the camera. Samuel's suit was familiar to me. It was Wallace's handmade wedding suit. Even the huge rose arch behind them, which was built with pink roses, was Wallace's own roses, carefully designed by running through several wedding decoration companies. At that time, she realized Samuel was about to propose, and secretly prepared all of this, planning to tell Samuel about her pregnancy on the day of the proposal. But Samuel proposed that day. Vanessa publicly released photos of her in bed with another man, declaring to let everyone see the real face of this gold digger. That day was supposed to be Wallace's happiest day, but on that day, her face gradually lost all color under everyone's eyes that saw her as a slut. Wallace couldn't help but slap Vanessa, but was then pushed to the ground by Samuel. Wallace, you already knew that person wasn't me that night, right? That was the first time I saw Wallace look so desperate. She trembled as she got up. A bright red stream flowed from between her legs. Vanessa kept sending me many photos of her and Samuel in wedding dresses. And to make it worse, she even called me on video. Sister Susanna, sorry, I just really like this wedding dress, but it's too small for me. I wonder if it can be adjusted in time for the wedding. Samuel's engagement party was not cancelled. I looked at Vanessa in the wedding dress, raised an eyebrow. She was between Samuel and Robert, and normally, even a frown would make two men worry about her. Span ID equals 0 now. She's finally willing to cut contact. That's strange. No response. Vanessa's provocation. I looked at Samuel in the lens, who remained silent. His eyebrows were sharp, and his handsome face, which was extremely similar to Robert, carried a hint of shadow. Just like the first time I met Wallace and him, I looked down at the system interface on my wrist. Samuel's affection level, 100. I smiled. Samuel, do you want to know why Wallace jumped off the building? Suddenly, Samuel raised his head, his eyes flashing with a terrifying madness. Who said Wallace was dead? We are about to get married. Are you trying to kill her? Daring to curse her? Vanessa's arrogant face suddenly turned pale. Samuel is crazy. Vanessa was grabbing her hair and dragged into the ward. Vanessa was thrown on the floor. Her wedding dress was torn, and her long legs were bloody and mangled. Blood flowed from her legs, just like Wallace left that day. Say, Wallace is where? Samuel had red eyes that didn't look human. I was choking my neck, watching the blood-red numbers with black smoke on his head. Wallace is dead. When she jumped down and smashed into a mess, her belly still had a child inside. Oh, I forgot. That wasn't your child. Because you sent her to another man's bed yourself. Samuel squeezed me tighter. I didn't. She prepared the wedding. How could she leave me? Even if she died, she would definitely be lying to make me regret it. That's right. That's how it must be. She's angry, so she's hiding from me. Right. You're her best friend. Where did you hide her? Samuel spoke at an extremely fast pace, looking at me with a pleading gaze, gripping me tighter, afraid I would say anything that contradicted his belief. I couldn't breathe, but I laughed out loud. Ha ha. Wallace, he just doesn't believe you're dead. He doesn't dare to believe it. He knows everything, but he doesn't dare to accept it. Just as I was about to be Samuel choked to death, Robert burst through the door. Robert punched Samuel in the stomach, and immediately checked on Vanessa's injuries. But when his gaze met my cold eyes, it flickered slightly. Susanna. I turned my face away without expression, looking at Samuel. He seemed to have lost all his strength from Robert's punch, lying on the ground like rotten meat, staring blankly at the ceiling. Bring Wallace back, he murmured. It is said that on the day Wallace died, he lost his mind, sitting by the body all night, and it was Robert who knocked him out and dragged him away. When the person died, the love began. Men are really despicable creatures. I tilted my head and smiled, responding, okay, you kill the person with the surname By. Samuel's eyes suddenly lit up. Susanna. Robert glared at me, wanting to say something, but Samuel, like a beast that smelled blood, red-eyed, rushed toward Vanessa. The sound of fists hitting flesh mixed with Vanessa's scream was really pleasant. I moved my wheelchair, choosing the perfect spot to watch this scene of uncle and nephew turning against each other for the same woman. I had watched it from the perspective of a side character with Wallace before, but never had a single moment felt so amusing. Until Samuel was dragged away. Robert finally looked at me with a dark expression. Susanna, have you had enough? I tilted my head and laughed lightly. I said, I want Vanessa to die. Samuel was breathing heavily, finally managing to tear off that fake mask of tenderness. His fists clenched and unclenched, as if trying hard to resist the urge to hit me. Besides this, I can agree to marriage or any other condition. He looked down on me, speaking in a condescending tone. These years, you've helped me a lot. As long as you don't cause any trouble anymore, I can live with you properly in the future. I just silently watched him, and slowly showed a bleak smile. I don't want to get married. I don't want you either. I and Wallace grew up in the same orphanage. This world, without Wallace, I don't have much to cherish anymore. Going home has only a 50% chance. The worst outcome is just death. Wallace has courage. What do I have to be afraid of? Robert stared at me in disbelief, as if he didn't recognize me. He looked at me several times, and finally confirmed that I wasn't joking. He angrily snorted, forcefully slammed the door, and left with Vanessa. Finally, it's quiet. I rubbed my numb legs and pulled out Samuel something he shoved at me in the chaos. It was a phone. These days, Robert was afraid I might send something unfavorable about Vanessa to the outside world, so he didn't allow me to contact anyone. Beep. Samuel's message came in. You want to take revenge on us? I'll help you. Vanessa moved into the room next to mine. Just like when he saved me, Robert hired top plastic surgeons at great expense, and didn't allow Vanessa to have even the slightest scar on her legs. However, Robert seemed to be pouting at me. Every time he passes by my ward, he always deliberately lingers for a moment but never enters, giving me a cold look, and when I show no reaction, he leaves in a huff. I don't know what he's angry about. Without Samuel as this competitor, and without me, his fiancée, clinging to him, wouldn't he be able to be with Vanessa happily? Oh no. Within Vanessa's heart, even though he has become the head of the Rudolph family, he is still just a backup. Susanna, you're really pitiful. You thought he truly cared about you after you jumped off a building. But even if Wallace was killed by me, he still wouldn't let me get hurt. Unfortunately, Samuel, that madman, actually fell in love with Wallace. He made my leg like this. But I'm different from you guys. Losing one man means I can find another. Vanessa came to find me, proudly showing off the expensive ointment on her legs worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. This Robert went through a lot of trouble to find for her to remove the scars. I said nothing. My eyes glanced at Vanessa's phone screen. which showed a chat interface between her and another man, and Samuel wedding photos. Today's leg injury, were Vanessa sent to, and her Robert and Samuel in different attitude. The chat interface was full of green, and the other party replied very little. The system said, "This is a tragic love novel. Female lead Vanessa has been silently guarding for many years, unable to get the male lead's love, and with the companionship of the second and third male leads, she keeps learning and growing, finally making the male lead look at her with new eyes and be attracted to her. The second and third male leads are naturally Robert and Samuel. Until now, the story has not even reached halfway. Vanessa and Robert still have a lot of entanglements ahead." My eyes flashed a cold light. I secretly opened my phone, took a picture of Vanessa's chat interface and sent it to Samuel. Half an hour later, Samuel came. "Samuel, are you still angry with me?" Vanessa looked surprised, especially after seeing the flowers Samuel had brought. She looked at me with pride, then limped forward to meet him. "Samuel, I know I was wrong that day. I didn't expect Wallace to be pregnant, but she's carrying a child that isn't yours. I just wanted everyone to see what kind of person she really is. Get away. You don't deserve to mention her name." Samuel pushed her aside forcefully. Vanessa fell to the ground, looking in disbelief at Samuel. In her eyes, no man had ever resisted her charm except for that man. Vanessa was unwilling to give up, and wanted to say something else. Samuel closed the door forcefully, placing the flowers on my bed. "I know. I'm not worthy to mention his name." His voice was soft, and he looked out the window, as if all his energy had been drained, his eyes vacant, as if he had gone back to the time a few years ago when he was tormented by depression. I fiddled with the petals. "This is Wallace's favorite flower, the iris, which symbolizes light, freedom, and love. Do you know what Wallace said to me before he proposed?" He was stunned, looking at me with both hope and fear. "She gave the child a name, Juliet, and hopes that you will be happy all your life." Samuel let out a sob, painfully holding his head. The autopsy report of Wallace came out, and the child is Samuel's. That day, Vanessa lied and said Samuel had been poisoned, and Wallace rushed to the room, only to find several strangers there. Wallace is kind, but not weak or unable to fight back. She was so strong. When I picked her up, she jumped from the second-floor window, broke a leg, and was covered in wounds. At that time, she thought this was just Vanessa's plan. Samuel's love value is 99, even if she still couldn't let go of Vanessa. She believed Samuel had nothing to do with this. She was still excitedly preparing the surprise until she got pregnant. Samuel was crying uncontrollably. "Humph. Those tears are really disgusting. Enough. Don't make me and Wallace sick. Where's the thing I want?" Samuel wiped his face and took out a share transfer document. If Wallace hadn't died, all of this would have been for her. Now, it's also for you. Do you really have no feelings for your uncle at all? He tightly gripped the transfer document, not letting go yet. My eyes fell on the figure lingering outside, and I let out a mocking laugh. "How? Afraid I'll be soft-hearted and can't take Wallace revenge? Don't worry, I don't have Wallace's romantic mindset. I can even sacrifice my own life for a man with a heart of a wolf and a dog." Samuel's face turned pale instantly. I put away the transfer document and wheeled my chair around, meeting Robert's angry gaze, and laughed lightly. "See you at the shareholders' meeting." Before officially seeing Samuel's shareholding changed to my name, I also didn't believe Samuel's is love 100%. At the last moment, he could still cruelly do that to Wallace. Scum like this says he regrets it. What is he regretting? It's just that there's no one else who would love him so wholeheartedly and unconditionally anymore. Wallace, now that the person is dead, he acts like a victim, jumping around and wanting to punish and retaliate against Vanessa. Don't get excited. You all won't escape it. When I drove my wheelchair into the meeting room, all the dozen shareholders turned pale. Robert's expression became even more interesting. "Susanna, do you really have to go this far with me?" "Samuel, how much leverage do you think those shares would give you against me?" Samuel the useless, cowardly father was Robert ousted, and he didn't have many shares in his hand. Robert still holds the greatest influence in the company. But with mine, it's a different story. I smiled and took out a contract, ignoring Robert's furious expression, and pushed it in front of him. "When I sold the company abroad, I gave you my life and the years I spent with you overseas. These shares were your promise to me." Robert narrowed his eyes, then looked up in shock a moment later. his face full of disbelief. Back then, Robert was exiled abroad, and Rudolph family didn't take him seriously, sending him money every month just enough to keep him from starving. Robert gave up on himself, spending his days drinking in bars. I found him and pulled him out of that mess. No matter how hard it was, I would be with you. Then I accompanied Robert in quitting drinking, helped him retake university courses, build his own company, and achieve success that made the then Mr. Gene take him seriously. This agreement was Robert the promise he gave me after I saved him during the earthquake, when he officially sold his foreign company. At that time, I wanted to go back with Wallace and I was only focused on the success of the strategy, so I naturally didn't want it. Robert didn't bring it up again either. Now, seeing Robert's shocked expression, I realized he never thought I would accept it. How? Are you surprised? Or don't you want to fulfill the promise? Susanna. Vanessa was angry at me. You're despicable. I knew all along that you helped Robert just for this day. Cunning woman. Robert has been preparing for your wedding these days. You don't deserve him at all. Speaking of this, Robert seemed to have gained some confidence, took a deep breath, and said to me, Susanna, I know you're still angry with me. I have already agreed to marry you. If you still. He looked at Vanessa for a moment. His eyes were conflicted, and finally he said in pain, if you mind Vanessa, I will send her away. Robert, hey. Vanessa screamed, rushing towards Robert crying and hitting him. Robert grabbed her hand, looking like he was enduring great suffering with a heavy heart. I raised an eyebrow, happily taking a photo of this scene. I moved my fingers and sent a number. Mr. Hayden. Let's meet. Hayden. He is the male lead of this tragic novel. This novel world has long been out of control. Vanessa, who should be kind and compassionate, is now only cruel. Now, when I mention Vanessa's name, Hayden's hatred is almost overflowing. What does this madwoman have to do with me? Why should I cooperate with you? Just because I can help you take down Rudolph family. I smiled and took a sip of coffee. Speaking with confidence, Hayden started from scratch, and his biggest rival now is the Rudolph family. In the novel, Vanessa stole secrets from the Rudolph family, and the Rudolph family was almost entirely taken over by him. Now, I'm going to give him the entire Rudolph family. These are some evidence of Rudolph family's tax evasion, stock manipulation, and fake accounting. I hope Mr. Hayden can feel my sincerity. I'll be waiting for you at the wedding ceremony in 3 days. Hayden looked darkly, and finally, before I left, he picked up those documents. The news that I was getting married to Hayden spread quickly. As expected, the first person to come to me was Vanessa. Furious. You did it on purpose, didn't you? You even seduced Hayden to take revenge on me. How did you get him? He was my man, my destined man, and you dared to steal him. Vanessa was hysterical, trying to attack me, but was stopped by my bodyguards. These bodyguards were sent by a shareholder who was on good terms with Robert. How? You can take him. I can't. I spoke calmly, leaning back in my chair and watching her lose her mind. Aren't you the one who liked Robert? Now I'm giving you space. Aren't you unhappy? Vanessa went crazy. Who would like their stepbrother? That kind of disgusting relationship. If it wasn't for establishing myself in the Rudolph family, I wouldn't even spare him a glance. Tell me, did you promise Hayden to help him take down the Rudolph family? This was supposed to be my role. I even got the most confidential documents from the Rudolph family. Susanna, why did you have to butt in? Have you and Wallace also awakened? I smiled and avoided her. Looking up, I saw Robert. You have always known I liked you. Did you find it disgusting? Vanessa was slapped by Robert, and bright red blood flowed from her ear. But Robert didn't even look at it again, and had it taken away. Turning around, he looked at me with a vague expression. Robert took a deep breath, walked up to me, knelt down, looked up, and for the first time showed a pleading expression towards me. Susanna, it was all my fault before. I ignored you all along. You have endured so much with me, and I shouldn't have only focused on Vanessa. He came to take my hand, eager to feel my presence, as before, and would always be by his side. Are you and Hayden putting on a show? Is it to upset me? I'll send Vanessa abroad tomorrow. No, you decide. How do you want to deal with her? Send her to prison or... Robert flickered his eyes. Or whatever you said before. We can start over. Okay. How fresh. Robert could actually give up Vanessa for me. He didn't even care about his own life that time. And the last call he made was to Vanessa. Oh, no. I remember now. It was me who was trapped. It was me who was on the edge of death. Pushed away by me. Robert has a tracker. He knows he won't die. He doesn't care about my life. But what about his own? Why do you think I'm acting? I asked with a smile. Robert stared blankly for a moment, then became resolute. Susanna, I know you approached me because of the system's mission. I heard you talking to Wallace before. You can't leave me, can you? Don't worry. There won't be any more Vanessa messing things up. If you want to avenge Wallace, I've already sent Samuel to the mental hospital. From now on, we'll be together. I clenched my fists tightly, a chill creeping up my back. Previously Robert's ambiguous attitude, the fluctuating affection in those overlooked details, finally made sense. In his coldness followed by timely tenderness, there was an answer. Even though I had withdrawn my sincere feelings for him, I still hoped that, after years of fighting side by side, there might still be some bond between us that had nothing to do with romance. But apparently Robert already knew. I was like a kite in his hands, tethered by a single thread, and my direction depended entirely on what he said. Let me become the best knife in his hands. But Robert, why do you think I definitely won't leave? The wedding with Hayden was very extravagant. Almost everyone prominent in the capital came. I was wearing a white wedding dress, designed by Wallace herself. I looked at my beautiful reflection in the mirror and nodded in satisfaction. A big hand covered my waist. Robert's gentle breath fell on my neck. Susanna, I knew you wouldn't leave me upset. I moved away from his approaching kiss, and looked into Robert's eyes in the mirror. He was in a well-tailored suit, and his tie was specially chosen to match the color of my jewelry. Today, Hayden didn't come. Robert was impatient with my resistance, but he bit his tongue and held back. He took out a diamond ring, his eyes gentle, his voice firm. Susanna, after today, we'll just forget everything. Okay. I didn't say anything, letting him lead me to the altar. All the guests' eyes turned toward us, and they weren't surprised that the groom had changed. After all, for the past 5 years I willingly stayed by Robert's side, and in their eyes, both I and Wallace were the number 1 and number 2 Rudolph family sycophants. Only the shareholder who had sent me bodyguards was biting his lip in anger. Susanna, marry me. Under everyone's eyes, Robert took my finger and tried to put the ring on it. I gently pulled it away, turning around in his stiff smile. Press the switch, and a huge curtain fell at the banquet. As the video played, Robert, a series of secretly filmed scenes of his drinking, fighting, and smuggling abroad were shown to them. Susanna. Robert became furious and tried to grab the remote control. I directly smashed the remote control under my feet and broke it, and the prearranged reporters rushed in, all holding microphones, pushing towards him, separating us. Rudolph family power holders shocking scandal, which is enough to affect Rudolph family stock price. How exciting it is. I smiled and watched Robert gradually lose color in his face, and the look in his eyes as he looked at me was shock, mixed with confusion. It seemed he couldn't believe that someone who would never betray him had actually pushed him into a situation from which he could never recover. Yes, Wallace, because of love. I was bound to Robert and Samuel by my tasks. They were sure we wouldn't leave, so they were reckless. One squandering Wallace's love, the other unreservedly exposing all his dark sides to me. Evidence. Over these years, Robert has been delivering to me bit by bit. I could make him, or I could destroy him. Robert was taken away by the police. Hayden brought smuggling, tax evasion, multiple charges. Don't understand. Why have you liked this scumbag for so many years? Hayden asked me, smoking a cigarette. Confused. Who knows? But it doesn't matter anymore now. I shrugged, looking at the ever-rising affection value on my wrist, my gaze mocking. Robert was never a good person from the start. If it weren't for the system mission, I would keep my distance from someone like him. As for why I fell for him later, I suppose, alarm, abnormality detected in the target of the romance plan. Please rescue Robert as soon as possible. My expression darkened, and I waved at Hayden to tell the driver to head to the police station. Surprisingly, Vanessa had already arrived before me. Please, Susanna, let me go. I know I was wrong. I was wrong. I shouldn't have harmed Wallace. Please, let Samuel go easy on me. She knelt at my feet, sniffling and crying, her face a mess, no longer showing the proud and haughty look she once had. I raised an eyebrow and looked Vanessa behind. Samuel looked emaciated, still wearing a pair of silver shackles on his wrists. I didn't let her go. I found a few men, and made her experience the same as Wallace had. I made her have a child. then had it taken away. Wallace. After doing all that, I turned myself in. Susanna, do you think Wallace will forgive me? Samuel looked pleadingly, the shackles on his wrists clanking. I looked at him like he was a joke and laughed out loud. Do you think that by hitting me once, I can repay you with one, and everything will be as if it never happened? You and Wallace both know why I'm here, right? Samuel suddenly tensed up. Then, will she come back? The prerequisite for going back is that you love her wholeheartedly. Wallace never wanted to leave in the first place. I looked at him, word by word. Now, the chance of going back is only 50%, but she still decided to take the risk. Samuel seemed to have lost all his strength, collapsing to the ground in despair. I glanced at the number above his head, already shrouded in black mist, and walked straight towards Robert's cell. Robert had lost a lot of weight. When he saw me, he rushed forward, gripping the iron bars with both hands as if he wanted to swallow me. Why? Why did you do this to me? You made me like this, and you can't even go home. Why did you do this to me? I sat with my legs crossed, thoroughly enjoying his outburst of desperation. Because you don't deserve it. My look of contempt seemed to hurt him, and he trembled, kneeling before me. Susanna, Susanna, I have decided to treat you well and change for the better. I love you. I was just blinded by Vanessa before. I didn't see my true feelings for you. Do you see Vanessa now? It was me who sent her to Samuel's side. Have you calmed down a little? Can you see the value of my love for you? Now you can believe that I love you. Can't you? Please save me. I know you can do it. I've come this far. I can't lose you again. Robert pleaded. His head, which had always been high before, now bowed at my feet, looking like a begging dog. It was so satisfying. Unfortunately, I know Robert too well. He loved Vanessa deeply, and yet he abandoned her without hesitation. Now, how many of this love value that has reached the maximum is actually manipulating and calculating my presence? He only loves himself. And I'm going back to Wallace now. A knife plunged into Robert's chest. His pleading voice gradually faded. Looking in disbelief, Samuel's hand holding the knife handle. Samuel was covered in blood. He had broken free from the police's control and rushed over. Far away, there was Vanessa's lifeless body with eyes wide open. Take me to Wallace. Samuel was wild-eyed, firmly gripping my hand. I know you can go back. I want Wallace. I want to see Wallace. Another bloodied hand grabbed my ankle. Robert was barely breathing, grasping at me like a last resort. Susanna, save me. He's almost dead. Yet he still thinks I would feel reluctant. Seeing the pleading eyes of the uncle and nephew, I sneered, grasped Samuel's knife, and stabbed it into my chest with force. Alarm! Alarm! The passage is forcibly opened. There will be a risk of death. Please withdraw immediately. Host. And complete the mission. I did not use Robert's affection value to open the passage. The system emitted a loud, sharp screech in my ear. Electric currents passed through my limbs, punishing me for my decision to leave the mission. Child trafficker. Get out. I roared, and with all my strength, I tore myself away from the electric currents. Suddenly, the system's voice in my ear disappeared. Light exploded around me. I heard Wallace calling my name continuously. Night after night in the hospital bed, I was unconscious, but I wasn't completely unaware. I was so scared. Susanna, you finally woke up. I was about to call 120. I was embraced, and the familiar scent enveloped me. I pulled away Wallace. Looking at her worried face, I couldn't help but feel emotional. You were so painful back then. What pain? Wallace looked completely confused. I was stunned for a moment, then checked the time. Yes, it was 2060. 5 years had passed. Wallace and I had been in a car accident. Everything that happened in that world was not a dream. Wallace, I don't remember any of it. That's great. I ran over and hugged her tightly. Such a painful memory. It's better not to remember. Wallace was almost scared to death by my sudden enthusiasm, and she patted my head, saying, "You're not sick, are you? You bastard. Did you hit your head back then?" But I also had a strange dream. A dream where I fell in love with an idiot, and he jumped off a building and died. You cried for a long time, and it was really hard for me to help you take revenge. It wasn't hard. What? No. Look. There's a plane. Wallace was tricked into looking, then realized it was a trick and came to hit me. I smiled and dodged, watching her lively and energetic appearance. I couldn't get enough of it. Outside the window, the morning sun was rising, and the tender buds of the birch tree were stretching into the room. spreading green vitality. Our life had just begun.